Hi guys, Michelle again. I'm excited to update everyone on the Analyze and Improve phase of my project that I'm working on with the help of my son Kai. Now remember, Kai is my oldest son. He's 10 years old, and he was running a mile in the 40th percentile for his age group. And he wanted some help improving his speed, which is why he talked to me about it. And it just so happened to be perfect timing for this coursework. Our improvement goal was to get Kai running the mile in at least 8 minutes and 19 seconds, and doing it by Thanksgiving. And that would take his percentile placement to a 75%, which would be a 35% overall improvement in only 74 days. Kai and I spent the first several weeks out running every other day, gathering data. But back in early September, we paid a visit to his pediatrician, who said Kai was in good physical health and ready to take this project on. And then after that, I had Kai run a timed mile for me. He landed at 10 minutes and 27 seconds. And after that, I spent some time researching some exercise journals to find a video that Kai and I could watch that demonstrated good running technique. And then we developed the milestone chart here so we could keep track of improvements. So as we went along in this process, we would be adding improved times and such into the chart. But then once he reached his goal, I was going to let Kai choose an activity he wanted to go do as a reward. So before we got started, I sat down and tried to brainstorm possible causes for Kai's slow mile, using highlights from the Ishikawa diagram that you see here. I've got all the categories of possible causes on the top and bottom, and then under those categories, I've got listed some possible whys to each cause. For example, under equipment, I've got that perhaps Kai is wearing the wrong shoes, or the track might not be accurately laid out as a mile, or perhaps the track is dirty and scattered with rocks. Under environment, I have listed that it might be too hot to run, the air might be polluted, or the ground is uneven. And under the people category, I have that Kai might be physically unable to exhibit a good running stride, or that he's not motivated to learn how to run faster, or maybe it's because Kai just doesn't know what a good running stride looks like. So lots of different ideas on the diagram, and this helped to bring focus to just a few that we could concentrate on. After completing that diagram, I chose two categories that stood out, and those were pre-run meals and stride quality. So for pre-run meals, I wanted to know what was in the meal, when it was eaten in relation to the run, and also if Kai developed any negative physical symptoms during running that might be related to his pre-run eating habits, like side stitches or nausea. I also wanted to examine his stride quality, specifically his arm positioning, his pedal landing position, and whether or not he displayed high knees while running. Because after all, a good stride will contribute to increased speed for sure. The doctor also wanted us to measure Kai's vital signs like heart rate, breathing rate, and degree of sweating, so we would know if Kai was becoming too physiologically strained during the run. And the doctor also asked us to keep an eye on ambient temperature, and told us not to run outside if the temperature was over 90 degrees. Then finally, I measured his time during the mile runs, obviously so we could calculate his speed and percentile placement. Then we set out collecting some baseline data for about 3 weeks. I kept track of all the results on a spreadsheet. We ran every other day, except Saturday. Our temperature was never above 90 degrees, so the weather was great, and we never had to utilize the indoor running track at the rec center. We also tracked his pre-run eating habits. I tracked how many minutes before each run he ate, what he ate, and whether or not he complained during his run of anything like side stitches or nausea. And then I also kept a close eye on his stride quality. His arm position while running should alternate between 45 and 135 degrees. And then he should be landing on the ball of his foot, not his toes, and he should try and get his stride knee above his grounded knee each time he steps. I kept track of all of my measurements and observations on a check sheet. Then after the first few weeks, I input all the data into this Pareto chart, so I could see which meal attribute and what stride attribute Kai struggled with the most, or had the most negative impact on his running. And we discovered that Kai never displayed proper arm positioning, and that he had the best outcome when he had a simple snack before running as opposed to a full meal. We also discovered that he landed on his toes more than he did the ball of his foot, and that he never had a full meal before running that didn't result in negative physiological symptoms. From the activities, over those 3 weeks I was able to make 2 interpretations from the data we gathered. First was that whenever Kai ate a full meal before a run, no matter how many minutes prior to the run, he developed negative physiological symptoms. Kai experienced the least negative physiological symptoms when he ate a snack less than 20 minutes before the run. And second was that Kai's running stride just does not match standard. His arm position never matched standard. His pedal landing position was correct only 41% of the time, and he only had high knees during his stride about 25% of the time. With our baseline data collected, Kai and I decided that we needed to improve what and when he was eating before running, and we also needed to improve the quality of his run stride. First, we took an in-depth look at Kai's meal selections and the timing of those meals. We can see in the Pareto chart here that according to our baseline data, Kai was most successful during his run when he ate only a snack and a bottle of water, about 15 minutes or so before his run. So that was one change we implemented during this analyze and improve phase. And when we compare our baseline data to the data we collected over this last 8 weeks, we can see that ensuring Kai stuck to just a small snack consisting of granola and a bottle of water, that he rarely had any negative physiological symptoms during his run. In fact, we saw more than a 30% improvement. We also focused on improving Kai's stride quality during this phase of the project, so the Pareto chart here has data that we generated from our measure phase, and it shows us that Kai struggles with all 3 stride quality attributes. When we look at a histogram of our baseline data, we can see that Kai struggles most often with arm and knee positioning, but that his pedal landing position is about half and half between good and poor. So if we look at Kai's stride quality on a root cause map, like the one here, we can see that pedal landing position should be the easiest stride quality attribute to improve. But why was that? We didn't know. So by completing a YY exercise, we could see that pedal landing position was an even split between good and poor because gravity and body stability force Kai's feet to land on the ground, whether or not Kai thinks about it. That makes it a passive attribute for Kai, and that it requires very little concentration. So that's why we decided to focus on his pedal landing position during this analyze and improve phase. Simply put, we knew we could win on this one, but we weren't sure how much improvement we would see in his run time. But comparing the baseline data collected during the measure phase and our current phase data, we see that Kai is now able to land his feet with good positioning more than 80% of the time. That's almost a 40% improvement. So then our next question was, how did these improvements translate to his goal of runtime reduction? And we are excited to report that with just 2 simple improvements, eating the right thing at the right time and concentrating on where his feet were landing, Kai surpassed his goal of reducing the time it took to run a mile. He's now in the 75th percentile for his age group and running the mile in only 8 minutes and 18 seconds. But we both know he can still improve, and he wants to reduce that time even more. So, over the next 2 weeks or so, we're going to continue monitoring all of our current variables, continue to focus on eating the right snack at the right time before runs, and we'll continue to concentrate on his pedal landing position. We're also going to work on improving another aspect of his stride quality. This time perhaps we'll work on knee positioning and then go after arm positioning last. And I think that covers the analyze and improve phase. Thanks for listening in, and let me know if you guys have any questions or other feedback for me. Thanks.